Welcome to Weekly. My name's Jessica. I'm a market strategist with Mumu. We've got gold punching through record all-time highs. So too has Australia's biggest tech company. And what can you expect from Nvidia when they report? Let's just get to equities right now. So the narrative seems to remain positive, and the long-term uptrend seems to be in place for the US and the Aussie share market. And this is supported by three things. Firstly, stronger than expected company results from US companies. We've seen US companies almost close off reporting season with almost all of the S&P 500 companies having reported results so far. And we've seen most of those companies report better than expected profits, with profits growing at almost 10% year on year. Their outlooks are also looking stronger too. Second of all, the narrative is that we've got Fed cuts coming down the line. And we do have to remember that Fed cuts support economic growth and also company profitability. Also remember history. So history tells us every time the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates, equities have rallied over the subsequent 6 to 12 months. And the third finale that is supporting the long trend of equities continuing that uptrend. It doesn't mean we won't experience pullbacks, but the narrative is continuing to strengthen because we are seeing the economy continue to grow stronger than expected. Sure, we are seeing softening in the data, but overwhelmingly, we are seeing stronger than expected readouts from different parts of the global economy, including, of course, the US and Australia as well. Gold has punched through this week $2,520 US an ounce. Now, this is despite some headwinds. So we saw the US dollar index nudge up a little bit, and normally that means that gold would be pressured. But nevertheless, gold has continued to remain strong. And the narrative, I guess, the case for gold hitting new record all-time highs continues to widen. So we do have Federal Reserve cuts coming, and the last three times the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates, gold has rallied to an absolute brand new record all-time high. So this is a scenario that we are continuing to think, that I think could continue to play out. And if you just look on the left-hand side, you can see the last time the Federal Reserve cut interest rates was in 2019. In fact, their first cut of the cycle in 2019 was in August. And then we saw gold start its rally on up, and it rallied to a record all-time high, well and truly rising over 40%, getting as high as 60% at one point. So if history repeats itself, we could potentially see gold punch through 3,000 and then maybe even get to $3,500. So this time next year, you just have to think about, will the discussion be that gold is tapping on the $4,000 US level? The other factors that are supporting gold is, of course, we do have central banks continuing to buy gold month on month. And last but not least, we're starting to see ETFs, exchange traded funds, really ramp up their exposure to gold. And this is why this time is different, and the plot is really thickening out for gold. If we think about best and worst performers this week, what is the one takeaway that you could take away from this week? And I'd say that would be that we can't ignore Aussie tech. So we've seen the Aussie tech giant WiseTech Global that make most of their money from freight and logistics giants, including UPS, DHL, Maersk, and all the 25 major freight forwarders in the world. We've seen WiseTech Global beef out their earnings, and their earnings have yet again hit more records. And as a result, WiseTech Global's shares have risen 28%. So WiseTech Global, the biggest Aussie tech company and also a monopoly in its field, proving that we can't ignore Aussie tech when we are adding tech to our portfolios. If we think about US equities, who has outperformed this week? and it's been Albemarle. So for those that don't know Albemarle, they're the world's biggest producer and seller of lithium. Just a reminder, Albemarle actually sells to all the major EV companies in the world. So think they're selling their lithium to Tesla, VW, General Motors, Stellantis, Mercedes, Honda, Toyota, Kia, the list goes on. And they also sell their lithium to also electronics companies as well. Now, we know that Albemarle has been one of the most shorted stocks. And remember, what is a short? It's essentially where traders and investors are betting Albemarle's shares will go down, and traders make profits when their shares go down. And so what we've seen this week is a lot of traders and investors closing off those short positions and locking in profits. And that's why Albemarle shares are up almost 10% this week in the US. And then you have got to ask, why are traders and investors closing off their shorts? What's going on in lithium? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen the lithium price move up off its lows. So the question is, was that the bottom? Is the lithium bottom in? And last but not least, we've got Nvidia reporting results. We do know from history that Nvidia has generally risen about 14% on the day after they've reported results. And of course, they've typically delivered better than expected results. Expectations are high. And if you have a look at the chart formation too, they're suggesting that I guess it could go either way. We're starting to see, I guess, what some people, technical analysts, might call a triple top. And that's why we're just a little bit cautious. And some notoriously, or some famous traders and investors have closed off some of their positions in Nvidia, while some large investors and traders have got about 50% exposure to Nvidia when they were previously holding a larger position. We do have to remember that, of course, Nvidia has got 60% of their client book with big tech. So Microsoft, Meta, SMCI, Alphabet, they account for 60% of their client book. So what will drive Nvidia higher is if we start to see a thickening out of their client book and materialization from other companies that they've recently added to their balance sheet in the healthcare space. So we're waiting to see if we're going to see manifestation from Johnson & Johnson and Novo Nordisk. We're also waiting to see what their outlook will be like. Will it be as sky high as most analysts are expecting? And that'll be key for kicking Nvidia shares higher.